podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hi, this is Ben, Sam and Harry from the Late Breaking F1 podcast, and you can follow this year's Formula One season with us on the Sports Social Podcast Network.
We're here every single week to bring you race previews, reviews and our opinions on everything from the F1 world, with plenty of fun along the way.
Listen to the Late Breaking F1 podcast now, wherever you get your podcasts.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AEye Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AEye Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AEye Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to AEye Scouted on Anfield Index Pro. I'm Dave Hendrick, joined as always by Mr. Karl Matchett. How are you, sir?
Blendiferous, 7 out of 10, and despite what some people want to say about the upcoming fixture, still top of the Premier League.
Still top of the Premier League. Carabao Cup winners, champions of boiling all the piss in Nottingham, Manchester and North London. Going very well in the Europa League, looking like a surefire quarter-finalist there and, facing a quarter-final in the FA Cup in just over a week. So all is going very fucking well for Jurgen Klopp's mighty Reds. Let's start with last night, Karl. Sparta 1, Liverpool 5. Not necessarily a scoreline that reflected what took place in the game, but certainly a scoreline that we're very happy to take, and means that come next week in the return, we likely see a heavily rotated Liverpool team.
I would say that with the risk taken of the starting lineup and how much certain players played, this is the acceptable reward that we get for it. We're not sort of done it the wrong way around to where maybe we thought we might do, where we went to just try and get any kind of result with any kind of team and then finish at second leg. Instead, we've gone quite hard, done it first leg, and second leg now we have the chance to rotate. So it's a bit of a surprise, I would say, in terms of the way around we've done it, but the reward is definitely there anyway.
Yeah, and we were talking about this on Raw last night, myself, Guy and Jim. And it is something Jurgen has done in the past where we've had a European night before a huge Premier League game, and he has gone really strong with the intention of sort of getting the tie out of the way, building some momentum and some confidence to go into that big Premier League game, and then being able to give the players their rest in the second leg so that come the following week's Premier League game, the players are fresh again. I think there is decent logic to it. Now, Joe Gomez was withdrawn at half-time. Jurgen says that was pre-planned. So fingers crossed, all is well with Joe. Ibu was taken off, having pulled up. Now, Jurgen said Ibu felt something and wanted to come off as a precaution. And I would imagine all of the players were told beforehand, if you feel any kind of niggle at all, let us know and we'll take you off. So I'm hopeful that was precautionary. Jurgen said Ibu was confident after the game that he hadn't gotten hurt, that he caught it in time. So I was thinking back a couple of months ago, we had the same kind of situation with Ryan Gravenberch, if you remember, where he went off and it did look like an injury, but then it turned out that it wasn't. It was precautionary and he was on the bench for the next game. So fingers crossed that's nothing. Darwin was taken off at the same time. My guess is the plan was to take Darwin off on 65 or 55 perhaps, and they brought that forward because they wanted to spread out the other subs across the remainder of the half. So Darwin certainly didn't look hurt or anything like that. Fingers crossed all three are going to be good for the weekend.
Yeah, Klopp has just had his press conference before we've come on here literally just in the past few minutes has finished sort of thing. So he said Joe Gomez is fine. So pre-planned, great. He said Ibu, I don't know. We basically have to wait for the results of the scan. So Ibu coming off of his own accord, I think, is probably still better therefore than it would have been. But whether that's still good or good enough to play at the weekend, we have to wait and see. If it's a hamstring, maybe it was just a tiny bit of fatigue. Maybe it was mentally in the heads of some players, some things can feel more than they slightly are as a twinge or whatever. We will keep our fingers crossed for that. Obviously, it could be, the most minor of pulls, and that's still not going to be recoverable from in the space of 3 days. So fingers crossed, that's all right. I mean, we'll get into it, but I guess it's a straight question of, do you want Joe Gomez, who's been playing really well in all positions, to just go centre-back, or do you put the centre-back for the season in Kwanzaa back in for Konate if he can't play? Doesn't seem to be anything at all about Darwin, because he just said everyone else is fine. So that I think that would be, as you said, they just brought forward the plan to keep it as a double sub.
Yeah. My guess would be that they made the one sub at halftime, and then it was planned that there'd be a double sub at 55, which would be Virgil on for Ibu and Dominic on for Darwin. Then there'd be a sub on 65 and a sub on 75, and they just brought forward the sub from the 55. So, hopefully all is well. Darwin scored 2 worldies last night, and given he also scored a worldie against Brentford, he scored the winner against Forest in such dramatic fashion. You'd imagine his confidence is going to be through the roof, and that is a massive boost for us ahead of a game against Manchester City, who play centre-backs who aren't necessarily the quickest, Karl. I mean, Ruben Diaz has a lot of good attributes. Pace is not one of them. Akanji is a little bit like Kwanzaa in this regard. Over distance, I think he's got decent pace, but in short spurts and on the turn particularly, I think it takes him some time to get moving. John Stones is also not the quickest. So that seems to me like a centre-back group that Darwin could have some joy against.
Yeah, I think where you'd say, let's say Konate is, for example, maybe as quick or maybe a bit quicker, but he has acceleration to his speed, whereas Kwanzaa does not have acceleration. Probably Akanji is of a similar line to that. He doesn't have the immediate acceleration, but he is quick across ground. I think Darwin Núñez has the traits to his game which makes him hard for any kind of defender when he plays well. Like, if you're quick, he still might be stronger than you, or he might be better than you in the air. Or if you're really good in the air and really powerful, his on-the-ball ability, his capacity to shift direction really, really quickly is a different thing. Or if you're just dominant at everything, he can just go and play wide and you don't get near him anyway. So he is a really, really difficult player to handle when he's at his best. He's a really, really difficult player to get the best out of himself, which obviously can go absolutely either way. But form and consistency-wise, which is where we've been trying to get him to a place where he is able to provide that for us, I think has looked better this season as a whole, but has also looked better over the last few weeks, let's say, and his ability to start and impact straight away, and his ability to come off the bench and impact, I think that's a very valuable thing as well.
Yeah, he's up to, 16 goals and 11 assists now on the season. And I think since the turn of the year, he's played 749 minutes. He has 8 goals and 4 assists. That is a goal or assist every 62 minutes across all competitions. And we've talked before about Darwin, how, we were seeing big improvements in all areas. His hold-up play was improving, his link play was improving, his touch was improving, his awareness was improving, his pressing was improving. And the last thing to click for him was going to be the finishing. But we had seen moments where the finishing was starting to look really promising. And of late, the finishing has been good. So you would hope that he carries this vein of form on. Do you think, because we might as well just do City today, we're up against it time-wise today, so we might as well just go straight on City. And let's look at our team to begin with. So Darwin is the 9. Let's work backwards. Left wing, I assume it'll be Luis Diaz. Do you think Mo starts, or are we more likely to see Harvey start and Mo come off the bench?
I think we see Mo on the bench. Now, when players are coming back from an injury, it's very, very difficult to guess what Jurgen's going to do, because obviously he takes stuff from the medical and the physio departments, and that's fine and normal. And then you think that you're getting into a rhythm of they have the same pattern. People come back and they'll make maybe 2 sub appearances, then start and play the 45 or 60, depending on the game, and then so on and so forth. But sometimes he just throws them straight back in, and you just don't expect it. Then you got other people like Andy Robertson who could have come straight back in. He had 3 sub appearances, 4 sub appearances before he actually got a one-off start. So I don't expect Salah to start on multiple reasons. One, sometimes he can be obviously rusty. Coming back, I know he put the ball in the back of the net last night, but that's besides the point. It's not going to be final 15 minutes Prague that he's playing this time. From a tactical perspective, you obviously need somebody really, really sharp in terms of the running back, the off the ball work and everything else. So I think that's another thing that possibly just goes against him. Also, his game is really explosive and tiring for a player to do. And maybe your first game back, you don't want to have to do that and leave your team short towards the end of the first half, or only give them then 10 minutes or 15 minutes second half sort of thing. Maybe we get more out of Mo's actual capacity in the final half hour of the game, somewhere along that line. The only other thing I could say is maybe obviously Gakpo is a starting candidate. Elliott, like you've said, or maybe, given that he's had a couple of appearances, maybe you want to start Szoboszlai in the front 3?
I think we need Szoboszlai in the midfield 3 against City. I think we need his engine in there against them. Before we move on with the team, are we sure he'll line up 4-3-3? He's gone 4-4-2 against them a couple of times.
Yeah.
Last season at Anfield, I think the season before at the Etihad, or maybe 2 seasons before, he went 4-4-2 at the Etihad and completely bamboozled Pep. Is there... I would like to see 4-4-2. I think Dom right, Diaz left, Darwin, and... it makes more sense with Mo through the middle. But like you said, we just don't know, because Mo gets injured so infrequently. And he came back against Brentford and he looked razor sharp. So, and we don't really know what's kept him out this last while. They said it was a repeat of the injury, but it obviously wasn't a significant repeat of the injury, because it only kept him out for a couple of weeks, whereas he'd been out for 6 weeks or whatever it was before that.
If it is 4-4 across, then I don't mind Elliott being the right side one in that, and Szoboszlai is then off Darwin. That's still a lot of central running power, a lot of attacking impetus, a lot of counter pressing, a lot of ability to shoot from anywhere.
Yeah, that's really interesting, actually. Because if you think about the game last year at Anfield, didn't Bobby play off Mo in that sort of number 10 position where he could drop back into midfield and kind of harass Rodri as he tried to pick the ball up off the centre-backs? So maybe you task Dominic with that type of role, knowing that he has the running power and the pace to get up to Darwin. Harvey had a great game in that game at Anfield last year, where he basically babysat James Milner for the entire game. And we played Jota left side because Diaz was injured. But Diaz sitting in front of the left back and being able to use his pace and counter-attacking ability could be very, very interesting. And I think we're stronger defensively now. Thiago is a tremendously good defensive player in terms of his intelligence and things like that. But I think Alexis is a better ball winner than him. And I think Alexis is a little bit more positionally disciplined than Thiago could be at times.
Yeah.
And this version of Endo is better than last season's version of Fabinho, who had declined enormously. So I wouldn't be against us going with what we tried last year, which won against City at home, with Dominic off, Darwin, Diaz left, Elliott right, and the two boys sitting in midfield. I don't think he'll do it. I think he will go 4-3-3.
Hey there. Did you know Kroger always gives you savings and rewards on top of our lower than low prices? And when you download the Kroger app, you'll enjoy over $500 in savings every week with digital coupons. And don't forget fuel points to help you save up to $1 per gallon at the pump. Want to save even more? With a Boost membership, you'll get double fuel points and free delivery. So shop and save big at Kroger today. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Savings may vary by state. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Are you that person who has everything? The coolest merch and those must-have fan threads? Well, over at our Anfield Index shop, we've gone that extra mile when it comes to pimping up your Liverpool collection. From our popular range of bespoke design t-shirts, sweaters, hoodies and hats, to our signature edition mugs, prints and coasters, all provided with fast worldwide shipping. We have something for every red. We also stock official LFC merchandise and are licensed with the Premier League and UEFA to sell official iron-on shirt badges and sleeve patches. As a listener to this podcast, you can get 10% off everything with coupon code AIPRO10. Just head over to AnfieldIndex.shop or find us on Etsy by searching for Anfield Index.
I think he will as well. I think the biggest reason for that is quite a few times when we've gone to the 4-4-2 has been to counteract specific weaknesses in our team, or when we've been having real problems in the team, when we've been on a bad run of form sometimes, or specific injuries. I think now, although we have had injuries with a couple of players coming back and the people who have been so good filling in, I don't think that plugging gaps in different ways is really a problem for us, and form certainly isn't. So I don't know that changing away from how we've been playing and why we've been playing so well actually aids us in any way.
So let's say it's Darwin through the middle, Diaz left side, Endo was the 6, and Alexis as the left side at 8.
Yeah.
Would we both agree that Harvey and Dominic should start in the other two positions, whether it's Dominic in the forward line or Dominic in midfield, and the other one is Harvey, rather than Cody, who I thought was really poor last night?
I think Cody has been really poor for most of the time, to be honest. I don't really want him starting this game, so yes.
Yeah.
If it is out of Elliott and Szoboszlai, Elliott starts in attack and Szoboszlai in midfield, and it is that simple.
Yeah, and the fact is, because they can swap during the game, if Dominic needs a 5-minute breather, Harvey can bounce back into midfield and he'll give you legs in there. Let's begin the defence by assuming Ibu's okay. Okay, and we'll work from there. Ibu, Virgil, who are your fullbacks? Because I wondered, did Klopp tip his hand last night with the Gomez half game, Bradley half game, Robertson playing the 90 thing? Is he going to go Bradley right back, Gomez left back? Because if Ibu is fit, I want to see Bradley right back and Gomez left back. I thought Andy Robertson was absolutely horrific last night, Karl. It's one of the worst performances I've seen from him.
I mean, I think the wider implementation of this is that if you look at Man City's recent setup, if you consider who's been in really good form for them, who's been their biggest danger men, who's been able to have a consistent impact, Phil Foden playing off the right-hand side and coming in on his left foot has been ridiculous for them, let's be honest. Absolutely ridiculous. And so on a number of tactical, but more importantly in this sense, technical manners, it makes sense to have Gomez at left back.
Yeah, I mean, and the other non-Mo Salah, very much in form, left-footed, right-sided player in the Premier League this season is Bukayo Saka, who we've seen Joe do really well against this year. So, yeah, I want to see Joe Gomez start. I think he's just flat out a better defender than Andy Robertson. And I think we look a more solid unit with him there than we do with Andy Robertson in the team. Like, watching last night, the amount of times they broke down our right. And Robertson was nowhere to be seen. And it's not like a thing where he was trailing back against somebody else. Like their right-sided forward, the budget version of Neymar, and their right wing-back, Presidio, they were running free into that channel. Kwanzaa was having to go across and deal with them. And Ibu was having to come across to try and help out, which was leaving Gomez basically 2v1 the entire time at the back post. And sometimes, even when Ibu was able to stay centrally, Gomez was still left 2v1 because he had the left-sided forward to deal with, and he had their left wing-back who was getting forward. And all of that stemmed from Andy Robertson just constantly being so far out of position that when we turned the ball over, there was just no hope of him getting back into anything resembling a useful spot.
Is this a holdover for you from injury, long injury for him, an absence, or is this?
No, this has been going on. No, Andy Robertson has declined, I think, significantly over the last 2 years. He ended the 21-22 season in really bad form. And if you go back and watch the goal that won Real Madrid that Champions League final, it begins with Andy Robertson charging out of position for no reason at all and then not getting back. And it's been going on for 2 years now. It was dreadful last season as well.
Therefore, if Konate cannot start, do you bring him back in, or do you, as we mentioned before, go for the centre-back?
Yeah, this is the question. This is the question. Gomez against City last year was brilliant at centre-back.
Kwanzaa has been good, but this is about 7 levels above anything he's played so far.
Yeah, and this is pace and power that he hasn't seen
aerial
before.
Brutality, which I don't think he's been immense at so far.
No, I do think Erling Haaland is massively overrated in the air, though. I will say that.
But it's not about how good he is in the air in this instance. It's about the constants of it and the power.
Yeah, true. But Kwanzaa is still better in the air than Gomez. And I know Gomez's numbers in the air this year have ticked up, but that's because he's playing fullback and not centre-back. He's playing holding midfield and not centre-back. If we play Gomez at centre-back, I do think he's better than Kwanzaa. But I think the gap between them is not as big as the gap between Gomez and Robertson at left-back. But see, the bigger issue for me is, do I want to line up with a 20-year-old right-back, a 20-year-old centre-back, neither of whom had kicked the ball for us in anger before this season, both of whom are very, very young and inexperienced. And this won't be popular. There are some moments where Connor Bradley goes missing defensively as well, where he gets caught too far up, very similar to Robertson. So you're going to be leaving quite a gap there exposed. The question is, who plays left wing for them? Is it going to be Jeremy Doku? Does he play Bernardo Silva there? Bernardo is obviously the much better player. I'd be less concerned about Bradley against him. Doku's explosive first step worries me. If he catches Bradley lunging in, can he get him on an early yellow, and then that puts everybody on edge? I'll be honest, Karl, I'd be tempted to, if he'd played a bit recently, I'd be tempted to go Gomez centre-back and Costas left-back, because I think Costas has outperformed Robertson this year as well. But I still think I'll go Kwanzaa and Gomez and just live with it. Like, none of it's ideal. None of it's ideal.
No, I would be tempted to stick with the original plan. So if the original plan was Gomez on his right foot against Foden on his left, I would be tempted to stick to that, just because Foden is...
Because that's a specific matchup that you're targeting.
And he's such a massive part of City's build-up play.
Yeah.
And he's a goal threat. And he's really, really in form. I would be tempted to not alter that quite key component of your pre-match ideal. I don't think in normal circumstances, even now, even with the form, I would go for Robertson over Kwanzaa. I would almost always go with Robertson and back him to raise his game in this fixture. But for this specific matchup, because it is a specific thing that we're thinking he wants to do, I would stick with Gomez left back.
The only thing I will say in Robbo's favour is Robbo Kwanzaa as a left-sided unit is very, very different to Robbo Virgil as a left-sided unit, both in terms of the defensive solidity, but also in terms of what Robbo does. When Virgil's on the pitch, he does keep more of a rein on Robbo. It felt to me like Robbo had the armband last night and decided that meant he needed to be Scotland's Andy Robertson, where he has much more responsibility than he does for us. And he was trying to drive the team forward. And when Virgil came on, he did seem to calm himself down a little bit last night. But I think I would go Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa and Virgil with Gomez left back. And we say all this to know that it's Jurgen, so there's always a really good chance that one of the disciples gets in regardless of form. But I just think that Gomez-Foden matchup is probably something we've been looking at for a little while. And Foden is so one-footed that he has to cut in field, which means Joe can cheat a little bit and he can really show him down the line. And the thing is, if you show him down the line, even if he gets round you, he's running into Virgil. He's not getting down the line and swinging across him with his right foot. He might hack one over, but again, I'd back our centre-backs to deal with that.
Gomez is also both quicker and stronger than Foden if he tries to go by one.
Yeah, that's very, very true.
You don't always need to position yourself perfectly or stop the cross or that. You just get a bit of body in the way, and he's a lot bigger.
Exactly. And look, in the last couple of months, obviously because first KDB was out, and since KDB has come back, he doesn't quite look himself. I know he's gotten himself a bunch of nice assists and all the rest, but he doesn't look like he fully trusts his body. Now, he had, obviously, serious hamstring injury in the Champions League final, misses 4 months, comes back, serious hamstring injury again. So it's natural that maybe he doesn't have faith that everything is, 100% and he can really go full bore. And because of that, Foden has taken on a massive role in their kind of creative play. And so we are going to be aware of that. And I would imagine that we'll probably see Alexis cheat back a little bit as well as the ball starts to move that side, so that if Foden comes in field, even if Joe is in front of him, Alexis will be back to try and snap in and take the ball off him as well. Because we do that, like nullifying Phil Foden is our biggest challenge this weekend, which sounds mental considering the other players they have in their team. But it's Phil Foden who's been carrying them of late. It's not been Haaland, it's not been KDB. It has been Phil Foden. And if we look at their recent league games, they beat United. It's him who drags them back into the game, him who then gets them in front. They beat Bournemouth. He got the only goal. Haaland scored the only goal against Brentford, having missed a bunch of sitters. Against Chelsea, it was Phil Foden who was trying his best to get them back into things. In the Brentford away game, it was Phil Foden that got the hat-trick after they went one down. Like, he has just been incredible for them across the last sort of 6 weeks. And he's having a very good season. He certainly is not a real contender for player of the season, no matter how hard Jamie Carragher tries to make out, because Rodri's been their best player, and if it's going to be a City player, it should be him, but, it should really be Virgil. Nullifying Foden is massive here. If it's Ibu and Virgil, it solves a lot of problems for us. Like, it makes things a lot more simple.
Yeah.
And it also makes you a lot more confident against Erling Haaland. Haaland's explosiveness across 5 yards against Kwanzaa, that's the one thing that really would concern me, is just those little slip balls in and Kwanzaa being a little bit delayed in getting off the blocks. Whereas, like, if you were going into a lab to build centre-backs to stop Erling Haaland, the two you'd come out with would be Virgil and Ibu. Because they're enormous. They can match him for size. They match him for speed. They match him for strength. In fact, they overmatch him for strength. They've both bullied him at different times. So I'm very hopeful that Ibu's good to go. But if it's Kwanzaa, we're going to probably have to have a word with Conor Bradley beforehand and be like, look, you're going to have to be more disciplined here. You're going to have to understand that there are going to be balls that Jarrell's not going to be able to deal with, and we need your extra pace to be able to sweep in behind him. So don't commit as far forward. Don't be as aggressive in getting forward. When the timing is right, absolutely. But pick and choose your spots. Don't constantly be trying to get as high up the pitch as you can. And when we lose the ball, it's 100 mile an hour back into position because we're going to need you.
Perfectly without thundering it into your own top corner.
Yes. Yeah, ideally. Now, I will say, I think that was the first of two bullshit calls last night. I don't think that was onside at all. The line that they showed in the one replay that they showed was purely drawn off Ibu, and there was no line drawn off the Sparta attacker, and it didn't look at all conclusive to me. In fact, it looked like he was leaning over the line that was drawn off Ibu. So, but yeah, I mean, don't put the ball in your own net if you can avoid it. Do not do a Jamie Carragher on us here. Hello, I'm here to annoy you. I'm here to annoy you into listening to more of me and more of others on EPL Index. We don't just have the Anfield Index stuff. We've got EPL Index as well, which covers the entirety of the Premier League. And we have 3 podcasts and a whole bunch of really good writing on EPLindex.com. The podcasts are my own Two-Footed podcast, which is every day at 4 p.m., Monday through Friday, covering the whole league. We have A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. You know Tadiwa, he does Anfield Index. He presents A Tad Predictable before every Premier League match week. And then Kevin DeVries and his crew on the EPL Roundtable, they're every week after the Premier League match week. So make sure you listen to everything we're doing on EPL Index and follow us there on Twitter at EPL Index. Thank you. Bye-bye. So let's talk City, Karl. Now, I think it's fair to say that they, like us, have not been blowing teams away this season. They haven't looked the same force that they have in previous seasons, but they began the season with 6 wins in a row. Then they lost away to Wolves, who obviously, have had some good home performances. They lost away to Arsenal to a fluke goal. Rodri missed both of those games. Then they won 3 in a row. Then they had a blip. They drew 3 in a row, including against us, but it was against Chelsea, us, and Spurs. Then they lost to Villa. So they played, 3 of the 5 best teams in the league, plus Chelsea away. They came away from that with 3 points. The Villa defeat was also without Rodri. They beat Luton, made very hard work of it, but beat Luton. Then they drew at home with Crystal Palace in probably the most surprising result of the season. Then they won 6 in a row. Then they drew with Chelsea, and now they've won 3 in a row. So you're looking at 10 wins and 2 draws from their last 12 games. Like, they're in good form. But there is quite a bit of huff and puff about them right now, where it feels like at times they're really having to extend themselves. Now, there are other games, such as the United game, where it feels like, well, they've got 2 or 3 more gears to go up here, but they're not always able to find those gears. Like, it's not always as smooth and as robotic as what we've seen from them over the last couple of years. They're almost relying a little bit more on individual brilliance than they ever have in past years. What do you make of them this year?
I do think that they are slightly below their best, but I also think that was not expected, but certainly likely after last year, after winning everything. To go and do that and then just do it all again is improbable as well as really difficult. So I think they're probably at the level where they could have possibly been expected to be, if that's, if that makes sense. Not as good as they have been, but as good as I think that they could have attained without big changes to the team. So I am, don't want them to win, but I am impressed by their manner of continuing to win so many. Let's be honest, if they were as relentless this year as last year, if they were on course for, previous years, 96, 97, 98 points, there wouldn't be a title fight this year.
No.
So it's a little bit because of how many they won. It's a little bit because maybe 1 or 2 players with injuries, like you've mentioned with De Bruyne, a couple of players who were decent for them last year have not been decent this year.
Yeah.
Just a few things, really, and they all came together along with a couple of other teams, Liverpool and Arsenal, doing either better or as well as they did previously. I don't think Arsenal have necessarily gone up too many levels August to March compared to last year, for example. I think they're a little bit better in midfield, but they're not levels better. We'll see now if they're levels better by what they do March to May.
But March to May is what matters.
Yes. Exactly.
And this is the issue, is that Arsenal don't seem to understand this. They're peaking in February and March and getting very excited about it. And I disagree. I don't think they're better in midfield this year than last year. Partey and Xhaka were spectacular last year. I know neither of us are Granit Xhaka fans. There's no denying that Granit Xhaka was absolutely outstanding up until he had his meltdown at Anfield.
Not at all.
I think they're worse this season, to be honest. But I think like you, I think this City team are performing below what they're capable of. I think we're performing below what we're capable of as well. And we're in a rebuild. I think that's the only reason that it's not just a 2-horse race, because if we were maybe a year further along and had added a couple more big pieces and City were doing what they normally do, I think there'd probably be 8 to 10 points between us and Arsenal right now. But us and City have also had a lot of injuries that Arsenal haven't had to deal with. Arsenal's best 11, which I would say is Raya, White, Saliba, Gabriel, Zinchenko, Odegaard, Rice, Havertz, Saka, Jesus, and Martinelli, have missed a combined 25 games in the league this season. Our best 11, which I made out, was Alisson, Trent, Ibu, Virgil, Robertson, because it's Klopp, Szoboszlai, Endo, and Alexis, Mo, Darwin, and Jota, has missed 69 games combined in the league. If you want to say, well, Jones is a starter in midfield and not Endo, it goes up to 71. And then you look at City, Kyle Walker's missed 2 games, Ruben Diaz has missed 5, John Stones has missed 14, Nathan Ake has missed 5, Kovacic has missed 8. Like, there's just far more injury problems for us and for City than there have been for Arsenal. We also know that Arsenal have played the easiest schedule to date, and the reason we know that is because they have by far the hardest schedule left. And everybody plays an equal schedule across 38 games. So when I look at it and I see us and City sitting 1 and 2 and then Arsenal 3, for me, the 3 big contributing factors to that are, 1, ourselves and City know what it takes to win a league and know that you want to be going up a level as you head into April and then May. 2, we've both played harder schedules than them, which is why we both have much easier schedules left than them. And 3, they've had very few injuries. They've had 2 players miss 5 or more games. One is Zinchenko, and the other one is Jesus. Liverpool, everybody bar Virgil and Darwin has missed 5 or more games. And for City, most of their best players have missed 5 or more games as well. So, I think it's all well and good giving Arsenal their flowers. I do think there are significant contributing factors as to why they're keeping pace, and it's not all to do with them.
Agreed. And as I've said several times, to be honest, I'm not personally still counting Arsenal as a title contender or in the title race or as a team that Liverpool need to finish above is really what I'm saying here. I just don't. I don't see it. And you know what? If at the end of March they win at Man City, maybe we can have a conversation about how wrong I think, right? If they do that, then fair enough. We can start saying maybe we should have started paying attention a little bit earlier to them. But until they actually do something, I don't. Like you, even like just general form. We know Arsenal have just embarked on a nice little win spree there, right? So they won, 5 in a row in the league, then lost in the Champions League, and then won 2 more in the league, right? So that's nice. Man City last lost the game on the 6th of December. They played 20 times since then, and they've won 18 of them.
Yeah.
They haven't lost an away game. In fact, they haven't even dropped a point or anything at all in an away game since the 6th of December. It's a wild difference. Now, I know, obviously, Arsenal were, let's say, a little bit more winning games regularity in the Premier League than Man City were at the start of the campaign, but not by that much. Not by that much. And as we've said before, it feels very much as though they've been at the limits of themselves to be where they are, which is great. Like, well done, because you have to be at the limits of yourself to win the title. But they've still got to do that for another few months and haven't yet, which is why I still discount them. Yes, they're there. Yes, they are a team to either try and take points off or whatever. We didn't, and they're still not ahead of us. And I just don't see it. We'll see. We'll see if they get through these next few games in a row, and obviously got their Champions League tie that they've got to try and turn around. But if they beat Man City away and then can follow that up with a couple of wins at not massive teams, but straight on the back of a Man City win, beating Luton at home, who are scrapping for survival, and Brighton away, who are capable of outplaying them if they're on the game, fine. We'll talk about it then. That'll be April, and we'll be in a title run then. And if they're still there, then yes, they are in a title run. But they're at least 4 or 5 games away from that point still.
Yeah.
And at the minute, they are still playing catch.
Yeah, and the thing for Arsenal is they could win every single remaining game and still not win the league.
Yeah.
Despite having had all of the advantages to date. So,
and if they do that, if that happens, that exact scenario plays out, Arsenal will then finally be where we were in 2018.
Yeah.
With a ridiculous finish to the season, with a really, really good run, and still not winning the league. And so you have to go and do it again. You have to learn and improve on what you thought was nearly perfect.
That's the thing. But if we look at the last 10 games for Arsenal last season and the year before, out of 30 available points, with a sizable lead in the Premier League last season and a sizable lead for 4th the year before, they took 15 points and came up short both years. So until they prove that they've got a stronger mindset and that they're able to bring this form into April and May, I don't want to hear about this supposed great team they've put together. Because all I'm seeing is a team that last season ended up well off the pace for the title by the end. City could throw away the last 2 games and still win the title comfortably. And the year before, they threw away a top 4 finish. So why would we put any faith into them? And look at their run. After City, they go Luton home, Brighton away, Villa home, which will be tough, Wolves away, which will be tough, Spurs away, which will be tough, Bournemouth home, it won't be a pushover. They're going to have to go to United as well. And United should have a bunch of players back who'll be fairly motivated to beat Arsenal. There was some bad blood after the first game this season. They've got to play Chelsea, who outplayed them at Stamford Bridge earlier this season, and have also done really well against City, obviously the team that Arsenal are modelled on. And then they've got Everton final day, who might need a point to stay up. So, that's a murderous run for the last 10.
And all of that is why it's this game which matters so much.
Yeah. We have got to win this game.
Yeah.
If we win this game, it puts things massively in our hands. Yeah. Because City's run in other than Spurs away, which is always a tough fixture for them, City's running is favourable to them. Ours is tougher than City's, I would say. Not by much, but a little bit, because we've got to go to Villa, which I think is a slightly tougher game than going to Spurs.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac, and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes, and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
I mean, obviously there's the FA Cup to factor in later on, and if both teams continue in Europe, they're already in the quarters. We're pretty much in the quarters, let's be honest. Our games are going to be easier midweek there than theirs are, comparatively speaking. We also are going to play a day later than they are, comparatively speaking. So across the board, it's not going to be that much different. So across the final run-in, across the last 2 months of the season, whoever has the slightly easier games in the league, it's not going to matter as much as this game. And not necessarily that if we win, we've won the league, but the boost that you get from suddenly going an extra handful of points clear to the boost that they would get by usurping us at the top of the table and having won at Anfield, a 4-point swing across the course of the season, of course, as well. That's pretty big, to be honest, at this stage.
Yeah, agreed. A draw would not be a disaster, but then we are actually hoping for Arsenal to go to the Etihad and take points. Now, as it is, we're hoping that game ends in a draw regardless. But, if we did draw this one, then we really want that one to end up as a draw.
Look, the thing is, if you draw, then it's still a case of you've got one game to slip up and that's it. If you win, suddenly it's 2, which is a big thing across 10 games when these two teams win, 26 out of 38, 27, 28 out of 38 sometimes. It's quite a big difference,
Yeah, very much so. Just in terms of their injury situation ahead of the weekend, they have no Jack Grealish, a doubt over Jeremy Doku, which could play into our hands. They do, even though there's no real end product there, he did cause us a lot of problems at their place.
I don't think he's going to start anyway.
Do you think he'll go Bernardo left side?
No, I think he'll play Bernardo in the middle, and I think he'll play Julian Alvarez from the side.
So let's actually look at that then. So Ederson in goal, Walker right back, Aki left back. Do you think does he go Diaz and Stones, or does he go Diaz and Akanji with Stones in midfield?
I think it'll be Diaz and Stones normally pushes forward next to Rodri. So, yeah.
And then Bernardo starting in midfield but pushing up next to KDB.
Yeah.
Julian Alvarez wouldn't concern me hugely from the left against Bradley because he doesn't have that kind of 1v1 ability or great pace, but he is a goal threat. He's obviously a good player. If they are willing to push John Stones into midfield and leave their back line 3v3, potentially against Darwin and Mo, plus Diaz, I think that'd be incredibly brave. You're basically leaving Diaz 1v1 with Darwin. And we can spread Mo and Diaz as wide as possible and pull Walker and Aki out with him. and leave Diaz and Darwin 1v1 with big amounts of space.
I'm happy with that.
That could be very, very exciting from our point of view. And we know that Ruben Diaz loves to spend himself a little bit of time sliding on the grass for no reason at all. So fingers crossed he spends plenty of time face down in front of both the Annie Road and the Cop. Yeah. So we were talking about this on Raw last night, Karl. Is this the biggest ever game between Liverpool and Manchester City, given it's Klopp's last season, given what's potentially at stake here, and given just the timing of it?
Maybe. I mean, the Champions League meeting was pretty massive.
Of course.
That was enormous. And, the whole manner of it and the build up for that and everything else, I think that maybe still would remain the biggest. But I don't know, this does feel bigger than usual when we meet them. Like, usually, obviously, it's a big game in terms of we're likely to be number 1 and 2, one way around or the other. But there's not always the storylines around both clubs. Let's say Man City very rarely have a storyline around them apart from the obvious.
The cheating, Karl. Let's call it what it is. Let's call it the cheating.
You do that. Liverpool have varying storylines around them from year to year, but this year is obviously elevated from every perspective, really, from a team builder perspective and obviously from Klopp's departure as well. So I do think that there's more made of it this time. Maybe it's slightly later in the year than we sometimes get these games as well. Like 10 games to go after this feels reasonably late. Like sometimes it's been like maybe sort of middle of February or whatever. And it does feel a little bit far out to be saying this is the title one. But I do actually think that whoever wins this is going to win the title, to be honest. Like, I think if City get a draw, I feel like they still have slightly the weight of the title in their favour, just because of current injury issues to Liverpool. The fact that this is a new group together, whereas they've done it over and over, and they can, even if they're not playing their best, get a 1-0 or 2-1 here and there, that's fine. But if Liverpool open up a 4-point lead over Man City, I don't think that they give that up over 10 games.
Yeah, I do agree. Like, as things stand, we are top, they're second. I still think it's their title to lose because I just feel like they've, putting the cheating to one side, those players have gone on the pitch and they've won the title the last 3 years. They've won 5 of the last 6. And they won, obviously, the treble last year. Like, those are players there that have won a lot. And with that has to come a modicum of respect. And it's not the players' fault that the club have done what they've done. The players have gone on the pitch and they've won the games. And I feel like you do have to just say, up until the point where the odds clearly swing in our favour. Like, right now, you might say, well, we have a 5% more chance or 3% more chance of winning the league than them. To me, that's too minuscule. Unless you're telling me we've got a 25% chance more than them to win the league, I don't want to hear it. It's their league to lose. The big thing I'm hoping for, Karl, is an absolute bear pit at Anfield. I'm hoping that tomorrow we replicate some of the truly great Anfield atmospheres from well before kickoff, and that when they come in, that the place is shaking. Because we've done that before in Champions League and in league games against them. Remember, we beat them 4-3 and we blew them away and should have won 4-1, but Lovren gifted them 2 goals and then nearly a third. Well, nearly a fourth. Like, the atmosphere that day was unbelievable. And Ox, Emre and Ginny just ran all over them. And I feel like if we can have that type of atmosphere for this game, where the crowd is just making positive noise all game long, like they did at Wembley in that final, I really do feel like that could be a massive, massive edge for us, because 1 or 2 of their players, I don't think will react all that well to it. It might make them a little bit gun shy. and it might force the odd error or two. And if they're getting the ball in their defensive third with pressure and they're forced to put it out for a throw in, or they make a mistake and we win a corner and stuff, when the atmosphere and the noise goes up after that, that can just get into a player's head a little bit. Now, they're experienced pros. We only needed to get into one or two of their heads. We need one or two of them to lose focus on the game. And that could be a huge advantage for us.
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping that everybody who's there on Sunday rests their voice today and tomorrow and goes into Sunday absolutely ready to make a racket.
Yeah, hopefully everyone stopped cheering around the 65-minute, maybe at the very most breathy people, maybe the 75th minute when Mo went off on Thursday. Just get that run out in your legs or in your lungs, whichever side of the boards you're on, and then a nice rest until the weekend.
Yeah, and no shouting at Joe Gomez to shoot. Under no circumstances is he to be told to shoot.
Unless we're 4-0 up.
Yes, then he can shoot from everywhere. But I mean, that's the dream, is that we go out Sunday and we can just get a flying start and get a couple of quick goals and really put them on the back foot. And then even if they come back into it and start to dominate the game, we'll have the threat to catch them on the counter. And that's one of the things that does make us so dangerous with Darwin, with Mo, with Dominic, with Diaz, is that we've got so much pace and power on the counter-attack now. Like, we obviously used to have it with Mo and Mane, and when Ox would play, he'd be part of that. But Bobby was never the quickest. Ginny wouldn't venture into a lot of the countering situations, and no one wanted Henderson getting the ball in any of those situations. Now, all of these lads can do bits and pieces. And obviously there's the threat of Conor Bradley appearing from nowhere to run onto a ball and smash it in the bottom corner, as long as he gets back into his defensive position immediately following doing that. Right. This feels like a big one, Karl. It feels like such a big one. What's your prediction?
Is the prediction I'm allowed to make or the prediction I want to make?
I want the prediction you want to make. And Lisa Marie, cover your ears. What's the prediction you want to make, Karl?
4-1.
Oh, folks, I want you to drink it in and lean all the way into that, because that has to be the mindset, that we go in here and we blow them away and we put down a real marker of intent and a real statement, and Arsenal watch the game at home and shit themselves and think, those fuckers are winning it, no matter what we do.
I don't think it's a 4-1 margin of victory in terms of performance level. I'm talking about the goals here. That's it.
You're talking about counter-attacking.
Counter-attacking, clinical edge, fortune falling our way, every single thing you want. One of them going in off Nathan Ake's left bum cheek. I don't care. I think Darwin scoring in the opening. Let's go for, I was going to say 9 minutes because of his shirt, but I think actually earlier. I think Darwin scores inside 7 minutes here. I think we absolutely come flying out the traps. We get one. Well, that sends the crowd. And whether or not they come straight back into it or not, I just think that we're going to see one of those days when things do go our way, when performance levels of people who are capable of great performance levels actually show up on this one. Alexis has been unbelievably good. And I can see this being a game where he shows he has every single bit as good quality as the best that Man City have in the field.
Yeah, and I think he shows that they're very foolish not to have signed him to replace Ilkay Gundogan. I'm going to go 3-1. I'm going to go 3-1. A little bit more reserved than you, but very similar. I think we fly at them. I think we score early, and I think we get another one. And then I think there'll be a period where they dominate, and they might get one back, and they really try and go for it. And I think we catch them on the counter. And the great thing is, if we beat them, I think you can near put it in pen that you get an all-time great Pep City team performance against Arsenal at the end of the month, because they'll be desperate at that point. They'll know they have to win every game.
Yeah.
Pep does not want Jurgen Klopp leaving with another Premier League title. He does not want that to happen. So they'll be super motivated going into that Arsenal game. The big battle here is the pace of our attack against their defence, how we stop Foden, and I think the midfield. I think the midfield is going to be huge. And like you, I think Alexis is going to be massive for us. But the fella next to him, who game after game just turns up and drops 7 or 8 out of 10 with no fuss and no ego, just boots on, wrist taped, gum shield in, let's go to fucking war. I think he's going to put in a big showing as well. And I think he's going to make City really uncomfortable, because he doesn't seem to understand that there are things you can't do. He just goes and does them anyway. Shove your reputation up your arse. We're 17, I think it's 17 starts, 15 wins, 2 draws when he plays. That's pretty spectacular. So someone's always got to go, and I think Rodri's is going. I think that run of whatever it is, 59 games without defeat, I think that ends here. Have you anything to plug before we go?
Nothing more important than this podcast.
There you go. Folks, it feels huge. It is huge. Hopefully, we're on post-match Raw after this game in celebratory mood. Hopefully, we're on Daily Red on Monday, reminding you, your daily reminder that the Reds are still top of the league, and hopefully it's with a 4-point gap to City, because like Karl, I don't worry about Arsenal. If we finish above City, we'll win the league. This will be a big marker. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index, and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.
Sports Social Podcast Network.